The Proteas tour to India has not lacked drama, and despite losing to India in the T20 Series, they have taken an early lead in the three-match one-day international. Worryingly though, captain Themba Bavuma is still trying to find the right gear with the T20 not too far away. That's of course the World Cup. To help us understand this and other cricket matters, we've roped in cricket analyst Lunga Kupiso. Good morning, Lunga. Thank you so much for joining us once again on Sports and Morning Live.
Morning for you and morning to the viewers.
Lunga, let's talk about this ODI series against India. Now, we've had quite a good start, and it seems as though the heavily criticised batsmen have somehow found some fight in them. Now, given how they've started and the good knocks we've seen, should we be hopeful?
I mean, there's always hope. Even in our last conversations, you know, we tour with the hopes that we can produce the results because we know that we've got guys who have the talent, who have the skill. It's just a matter of mastering the moment and, you know, owning the game or situations in a game that can help you win an encounter. And even if you reflect on the T20 series, you quickly realize, barring the first T20 where they were nowhere, in the second T20 they went too far away. They didn't lose by too many runs, and it was a high-scoring game. In the third T20, likewise, the side has found a way to score runs, and you just hope that, you know, there seems to be a trend that the guys who had bagged a couple of knots, for example, in the first T20, then converted in the follow-up games. So you just hope that it trickles down and it becomes a cultural norm within the team. And all those who are under pressure find the centuries, and we're all happy again.
And as we speak about all those that are under pressure, we need to address the elephant in the room, the current form of the captain Themba Bavuma. I mean, how much of that do we attribute to possibly just the psychological effect of what happened when the T20 auction in South Africa took place right before the series against India? Well,
certainly missing out on the T20 or a T20 sport at the auction in your own country in a format that you are championing as a captain, because that's what he is. He's the ambassador for T20 and ODI cricket. That will certainly have a psychological blow to the confidence of the player. But we must also appreciate that he was also sitting out the previous series because of an injury to the elbow. And so, you know, to regain your form at that level without having played much cricket at the domestic level, it begins to show. And perhaps that's what we are seeing. Just that lack of domestic cricket in between the injury and him playing for the Proteas. We should be worried because you want your top order batsmen to score runs. But it's not something that is unheard of. It's not something that we've never seen before in the Proteas. And so the hush talk that's happening in the background and all the murmurs that are happening, it's just really having a conversation or nothing. We've seen captains before not score runs in the South African camp, and we've seen them being backed all the way to a World Cup, play in a World Cup, never miss a match at a World Cup. So it should not be different just because it's Temba. What we should be doing really as a cricketing nation, as a cricketing base, is to get behind him and say, well, we hope you find your form soon. If you're not scoring runs and the guys in the team are saying having you as part of the team is instrumental, then who are we to judge? Because we are not in that environment. We can certainly, value what he brings to the table, as the team says. I mean, Barsha has said he brings value to the table. Interestingly enough, another dark horse to South African cricket, A.B. de Villiers said, don't discount Temba yet. Don't write him out, because he's got the perfect foundation for what could be an incredible story. And he could go to Australia, turn things around, score 3 centuries on a trot, and all of a sudden he's a national hero again. So let's just hang back.
So as you say, let's just hang back. What do we do in this moment? Do we continue with Temba, or do we perhaps give the likes of Reza Hendricks another opportunity?
I don't think dropping Temba is a question. It's too close to the World Cup. Even if it wasn't too close to the World Cup, dropping him is not a question. Like I say, a precedent has been set. So right now is not the time to try and figure out a new formula, try and see what could work and what shouldn't work. He's the captain. We back him. The team has come out, Bacha has come out and he said, we believe and we back him. He has our support. The team has come out and said, we support him as our skipper. Now he should be fine. All we are hoping for is that what he does in the nets, what he does at training, translates into the results on the field. Perhaps what could happen is just tweaking the lineup. So as you say, to accommodate a Reza, for example, should he continue with his form when he gets the opportunity, then you find a slot for Temba either at 4 or at 5. Interestingly enough, that opportunity to tweak the lineup could be there, because the other day the news coming out of camp that Dwayne Proteas is not going to be traveling with them to the World Cup anymore. That opens up its slot at that all-rounder position, but you could move in such a way that if you keep a Wayne Parnell, for example, who then serves as your all-rounder, you are able to shift your batting order and you make it a little bit longer than what it typically would be to accommodate, for example, having an extra batsman in the like of Reza Hendricks without having to drop your captain.
Understood. And then there is something else I also want to touch on with you. Director of Cricket Enoch Ngwe has hinted at possibly having different coaches for the different formats. And he says it's because of the number of ICC tournaments that the team is going to be involved in, having a coach for red as well as white. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we've seen that happen with England. I think England really were the first national side to champion that idea of having two separate camps, which actually worked well in their favor during the stricter lockdown period in time, where they were playing in one section of England whilst finishing a test series in the other. And so having two different heads who are still serving the same objective could very well work in our favor. And also what that allows you is to get a specialist coach who focuses on red ball cricket to be with the test side, get a specialist coach to focus on white ball cricket. Possibly what could then that translate to, for me, what I see that as an opportunity is that Bacha could come back at some point to coach the Proteas in white ball cricket, whilst we find somebody who's more perhaps suited for the longer version of the game, or vice versa. I don't think that is a far thought or that is something strange. It could actually work very well, because then the coach is able to build a relationship with a captain for that specific format, and they strategically work on that format. And, it's something that could help us get the trophy, if we're ever going to get the trophy.
Indeed. And as I start wrapping up with you, Lunga, let's talk further on this coaching discussion. I mean, we have the likes of Manebongwe Makete and Jeffrey Toyana. With Jeffrey, I mean, we always know that he was overlooked, and unjustly so, in terms of that coaching position for the Proteas. And Makete, on the other hand, was part of a succession plan that really never came to fruition. And we don't want these two individuals to be lost to South African cricket. So what happens to them now?
Well, I think, they can say Makete was part of a succession plan, but really it was a succession plan, serving as a facade. But realistically speaking, we all know the reality that transpired and how everything else unfolded. So those guys have certainly earned their stripes. Nobody would bemoan a decision to have them appointed into the setup. It's whether they want it or not, really, because if we have to consider the individual, how disheartened were they at being overlooked? What did that do to the psyche of the coach? Granted, we know that Jeff has found himself again. He has gone on to, establish himself with the Titans, serving under Mandla. Likewise for Wandi down in the Eastern Cape as well. So whether the guys want it or not is a different question. If they do want it, there's no reason for South African cricket lovers to be worried, because these are guys who've earned their stripes. They've got the credibility. They've got the coaching certifications. They've done everything that they need to do. It's whether or not they should want it. We no longer have that control to say, hey, come and join us. It should be on their terms.
Lunga, thank you so much for your time and for all the insights you always bring to us right here on Morning Live Sports. Do have a blessed day ahead.
You too.